Okay, hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to make a painted wall tutorial in Substance Designer. This is the third material we've created in our series of materials. This is going to be the easiest of the three. We also made a brick wall and a wooded floor that we are going to use in an Unreal project. That's going to be a tutorial that explains how materials work in Unreal. So our goal here is to make game-ready materials, not necessarily, holy cow, look at how it looks in Substance Designer. We're making it to look good in Unreal. So I'm going to show these materials to you right now, and these are running in Unreal. I don't necessarily know what they look like yet because we're going to make it. But you can see here's in Unreal. We'll kind of get close up to it so you can kind of see the detail. And then we'll also show you a picture of all of the three of the materials that we've created already in Unreal. Now, if you want to go back and do those other tutorials, they're a bit longer than this one, but they're pretty solid. And I'll link those in the description of this video. Okay, so let's get started. I already have a substance graph open because I have to get that set up to do the tutorial, but let me show you how I got here. We go to File, New, Substance Graph. You can do metallic roughness right here. You can name it whatever you want, and then just hit OK. I've already done that, so I'm going to just close down. Now the first thing we want to do is delete the outputs that we're not going to use. Now we're not going to use metallic, so you can just delete those. We're not going to use ambient occlusion, delete that out. And we're not going to use height, so just delete that out. So what we're left with is base color, normal, and roughness. Today we're going to start with the color. Normally the other ones we've started with the normal, but today this is an easier one, so we're just going to start with the color. Let's delete this one out so we can kind of put what we want in there. If you hit the space bar, look up color. Down here is uniform color, and we're going to take that and we're going to copy it and paste it. So now we're going to have two, and what we're going to do is we're going to blend two colors together. Now let me get you those colors. Now the first color you can see here is this hex, this one right here. So just type that into the bottom, or you can try to choose your own color. But if you want to follow this exactly, just put that hex in and that'll give you the color. Now you can see it right there, and it'll show up on your screen down here. It's kind of a light creamy color. And I'll get you the hex for the second color. So the hex for the second color is this right here, this BF. So just type that one in. Now let's move these two a little bit off. Now they're just a little bit different variations of a creamy color with a little bit of different hue and saturation. Now we want to blend these two together because very rarely are materials just a straight color. So even for like a cream color wall, we want to have kind of some different variation in the paint. So for this one, because I don't really want it to tile poorly, I'm going to use a noise that's going to tile really well, but it'll also mix both colors together. So we'll do black and white spots. So just hit the space bar. And we'll do black and white spots 3, and just pull that one right down under these. And we're going to blend these two colors using that mask. So we'll put in a blend, space bar, and then type in blend. It'll be one of the top options. We're going to blend the top over the bottom. It doesn't really, in this instance, it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to put the blend right there. And then we'll look at our output. Now, if you can see, there's a very slight color variation. Now, it might be difficult to pick up here, but it gives us a little bit of variation between two different hues. Now, I can actually show you here. Let's actually open up this color. And let's just drop the value down, just remembering what it's at. It's at 178, so let's just drop it down. Then go to our blend. And now you can really see how it's blending those two colors together. Now if you go to tiling, you can see it tiles pretty good, even though it's pretty crazy now. And then the more you drop it down, if it was just a straight up clouds, it would tile terrible. So now we'll go back to this color and put it back to what it was. We go back here, and the value was 178. I believe. If not, that looks good. Okay, so let's click back on the blend here and let's take a look. And you can still see that there's the variation in the color, but it's much, much fainter because the colors are closer matching to each other. So we can just plug that straight into our base color straight away, and that'll give us the start of our painty color. Okay, so believe it or not, that's most of our color map. Which, if you've done the other tutorials, you'll think we were going to load it up with a million different things. Well, no, this is a simpler one to make, so it's nice. So let's bring in some grunge maps. The good thing about Substance is it has a lot of really nice maps to make like a painted wall texture, and some of them are just built right in. So let's hit the spacebar and go grunge map. Let's pick grunge map 14. And if you look at that, that looks like a kind of a crazy, wild, painty, streaky grunge. We don't want that quite as strong, but let's plug that into the normal just to show you the effect just straight away. So straight away, you're like, we're getting somewhere. We're actually looking pretty good. This is a really nice looking one. You can see all the crazy cuts in and all the crazy cuts out. Someone did a really, really, really terrible job painting. But we are going to have it a little bit, leave it a little bit like this, even though we're making a straight painted wall, just to add a little bit of visual interest for people. Otherwise, the wall, we could make this in 2 minutes. So we'll just kind of close this down. Now let's do a levels on this grunge map. So spacebar and levels. And what we want to do is we just want to kind of get it less contrasty. So pop into your levels, and then in your levels, to bring down the contrast, let's just pull this handle up and pull the white handle down. You can see it's quite a bit less now. What that'll do is when it's trying to read the height map, it'll make this less bumpy out. You can plug it in right now to show. And you can see it's quite a bit reduced. But that's more what we want. We can't have it quite as crazy unless we were making more like a grungy horror game. This is more of a clean white wall. So now we're going to blend one more map with that. So we're going to look up grunge. And believe it or not, we're going to do grunge leaky paint. So there's already a nice one built in. You see? And then we'll do a blend. And we're going to blend this one over the leaky paint. And in our blend mode, we're going to go min. You see how it makes this nice. It blends both things together. Now let's plug that straight into our normal map. Now you can see the really painty, streaky wall also has like paint streaks coming down. So someone's doing a pretty lousy job painting, right? It's glooping on, it's kind of getting all over the place. We're going to reduce that a little bit, but we do want some of that effect. Otherwise, we just don't have an interesting material at all. So now let's add the ambient occlusion, which is you take this as a height map and then it makes shadows out of it. And let's just add that to our color map. So hit space and then RTAO for ambient occlusion, ray traced, bonk. You can see what it does there. And we need to blend that with our color map, so we'll need to add a gradient map. So just search out the gradient map, put that in, bunk. And now you can blend that with our color here. We'll put in a blend. We'll blend this bottom one over the top. And the blend mode we'll use is multiply. That'll darken it. and we'll turn the opacity way down. In fact, I'll probably enter a number. You can see it, the more you do, the more it'll shadow it, and you can kind of see right there. We'll plug it into the base color just so you can see, and you can see now, see how it's shadowing on the insides of any of the bumpiness. We don't want that much, so we want way down, probably something in the 0.025 range. So there you go. And this is all good practice for normal texture design here in Substance. It's kind of a general idea of how to always do things. I'm rearranging things as we talk. So that's our color map. If you've done the other tutorials, you probably were wondering how are we going so fast. So now we'll save. Now we want to work on we have our normal map, we have our color map, and now we want to work on our roughness map. So for our roughness, we're going to use another grunge. So let's zoom in here. And another nice grunge. We'll call it grunge leaks. There you go, and you can see how it's kind of leaking down. And this is going to be for our roughness map. We're going to blend, spacebar and then blend. These two, we're going to blend this one over our leaks, like that. And our blend mode is going to be add. You see how it really makes it pop there. Pull this down a little bit. Now I want it to be shiny in a different way. We can plug it in if we want. I'll show you. You can see how it's shiny when you look at it like this. It's shiny. I want to invert that. So it's shiny where it's not shiny and dull where it's... If we kind of look in here, you can kind of see right now where it's shining. I want it shining the opposite way. So let's do that. We'll put it in invert. Or invert grayscale, because this is grayscale. Bonk. Bonk, plug that in. Let's delete out this other roughness uniform color. And now we have what I want, the shininess on the outside. I mean, it's not going to look this ridiculous, but we're getting there. So we can kind of pull that in. And now what this does is it mixes our original map for the bumpiness with this new grunge map, and it adds this extra layer of shininess that isn't related to the color or the height map. And that's important when you're making your roughness maps. It's important to have something that variates a little bit off of those two maps, and it'll really make your roughness map sing. It's in the real world, things can be shiny and less shiny and not based on the color or the roughness, based on like how many times a certain area has been touched or the wear or whatever. So it's always important to have another thing in there instead of just using your color map or just using your height map to generate the grunge map. So right now, this is going to be way too bright and it's way too contrasty. So we're going to put in a levels. Levels are always a good way of adjusting your colors and your contrast and everything. I'll plug that into there. Plug this one into our result. Pop it up. And for our levels this time, we want to make this way less contrasty and keep it a little brighter, because I know in Unreal it's going to be way too shiny. We're going to keep it a little shiny, but maybe we adjust it to... Maybe we adjust that slider right to about here. Pull this one down. Keep some of that contrast in there. Maybe pull this black one up just a tiny bit more. No, let's come down just a little bit. I want to keep... There we go. Something like that. And believe it or not, that's that. Now, again, I've kind of said this a million times in other tutorials, and I don't think I've mentioned it here. Your result in the viewport in Substance isn't going to look like your result in Unreal. So it's always important to be transferring your stuff from the viewport in Substance into Unreal to see what your result is going to be. Now, the other thing before I do that is let's drop down the bumpiness, because while we could have this in like maybe like a horror game or something like that where everything is more worn down and everything is more gloopy, this is going to be more clean, which sometimes is more of a challenge to do actually than just kind of grunging the heck out of everything. You'll notice a lot of games just grunge the heck out of everything and it looks really great. But it's really easy to do because you can just throw map over map. Now, this material is meant for about a 2.5 by 2.5 foot section. So that's always important to note how detailed it's going to be when you look at it. So let's zoom into this normal here, and it's at intensity 1. And I'm going to drop that intensity to 0.5. And what that does, it'll make it bump out less. It'll make it harder and harder to see, but it'll make it bump out less. But we'll still have some of that cragginess, probably more than you would have. Okay, so now I am going to go to Unreal, and I'm going to test what we've just created on Unreal, and then I'll be back. And if there's anything that needs to be changed, we'll change it at that point. But otherwise, we're going to be pretty much done. So don't go anywhere, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back from testing it on Unreal. Everything looked really good. I changed one thing, and I'll show you that right here. If you go to the normal intensity, I just dropped it down to 0.4 instead of 0.5. Not a huge deal. It was a tiny bit too bumpy for my liking. I will show you the result in Unreal right now. I'll probably flip between with all the textures together and then maybe just the texture by itself. And you can see the results. Now you can make, just to remind you of a couple different things, you can randomize all of these grunge maps and make different looking textures. Now for this wall, obviously it's not going to make some huge difference, but you could get a variation of it that you like a little bit more than others. So yeah, now I'm going to show the end result. I want to thank you guys for coming. Again, I do have the more complicated tutorials. I'll link them in the description. I'm very small channel still struggling to find some views and some subscriptions. So if you like what you see, or you like the idea of having a nice tutorial design channel, you know, in addition to the other ones maybe you watch, please give me a subscribe, please give me a like or something like that, or interact with the video. I appreciate every single one of the people who watch these videos. It's great. Thank you very much. In the future, like I said, we're going to hop into Unreal and we're going to start applying these materials to our world, and I'll go over through some different things in Unreal. One of the things to note with this is you might wonder why we didn't add like more grunge or anything like that. Well, this is a very small section of painted wall, so if you put a lot of grunge on that, you're going to notice a lot of tiling. For this type of material, it's better to either do like texture painting where you're blending a couple materials together to make kind of like this kind of wear, or to overlay it with the decal for like leaky streaks or something like that. Anyways, thank you very much for being here. I know this was pretty short and pretty easy. It's kind of nice to do an easier one, but maybe it's not as much as exciting. You could also up the normal intensity of this just to make it look crazy if you want. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.